I know what you're thinking there. 3 episodes in a row now he's doing the I know what you're thinking there. It's almost becoming his calling card. That's what murderers have, At least in serial killer movies, they have a calling card. They'll call it a calling card. It won't be a card at all. It'll be the fact that they shove someone's neck into their anus after they murdered them, and that'll be their calling card, the little signature thing. And you're thinking, oh Christ, he's going, I know what you're thinking there every episode now at the beginning, and that's his calling card. Well, that's a bit much if you don't mind me saying so. Comparing me going, I know what you're thinking there, to a fictional murderer going, I'm going to shove this neck up this fella's scrotum and I'll leave that as the calling card. To be like one of those alphabet murderer things, except my calling card won't be a fucking letter of the alphabet. It'll just be something gross. That's what you're thinking. I don't see what that's got to do with me at all. I'm just going, I know what you're thinking there, and then seeing if it leads somewhere. That's all I'm doing. I'm just trying to make an interesting cold open and going, I know what you're thinking there. Don't even know what I'm going to say when I say that, I know it sounds like I do because it literally starts with me saying I know. I go, I know what you're thinking there. I don't even know what I'm thinking here. Clearly a lie. Oh, it's not a malicious lie. If I was a musician and I started off, we're going to have a great night tonight. We're going to all have some nice songs. Everyone's going to enjoy themselves. You wouldn't say you're lying when they did that. You're just setting the atmosphere. You're saying, let's have a great time. Well, I'm not saying let's have a great time. I'm saying I know what you're thinking there. Which I suppose, if you're not familiar with this program, might sound ominous. Especially when I add in that thing about the serial killer shoving your neck up your rectum as a calling card or something. Because I think I've just realised the problem. I've been trying to get going for some time now. I've just realised I think I'm coming down with something. I think I've got phlegm in my mouth, coughing all over the place like there's no tomorrow, sipping this dregs out of this bottle of Coke just to stop me from vomiting all over you. That's not to say I can vomit all over you from here. Not physically anyway. It's a metaphor. I'm not really vomiting all over you. I'm just vomiting all over you in terms of, I suppose I could vomit here, literally, and then record that as a segment here. I still wouldn't be vomiting all over you, but the content would effectively be metaphorically vomiting all over you. And also it would be quite literally a recording of me vomiting, just not all over you. It would be more over me than anything. Ironically, I'd be vomiting all over me, not over you. It would feel like I vomited all over you. It would feel somewhat disrespectful, probably, to you. And I could understand that. I wouldn't like someone vomiting all over me, whether it be metaphorically or literally or a weird combination of the two. I wouldn't want them. I listen to a lot of podcasts. If I heard someone come on here and going, I'm going to vomit all over you. Now don't worry, it's not literally, although I am going to vomit now onto my equipment, and then I'm going to record that, and that'll be the gist of today's content. No, I don't think I'd like that at all. That would be a bit much. So I won't do that to you. I'll have a bit of self-control and consideration. I'm not going to vomit anyway. It was more about coughing and spewing phlegm and stuff like that, and doing disgusting things involving whatever system is affected by whatever I'm coming down with. I always do my best to protect you from that and not make you listen to a disgusting thing that happens inside my throat and my nose and the rest of me. The rest of me tend to go on about the urination bit, but that's not part of any illness. Urination is just a normal part of day-to-day life. It's not something that you need to cover up or protect your listener from. It's as normal as having cats. It's as normal as sitting here talking to you about my life. If I sat here like other podcasters and just told you about my life, that would be just as normal as me talking about pissing, as I quite often do. I spoke a bit about pissing last week. Now, you'll notice I didn't actually piss last week. I spoke a lot about the fact that there's an ensuite toilet in this room and I could convinced myself that I'm going to go and have a piss over there, and it'll be just like the old days when I lived in a bed-sitting room apartment and I literally went over there for a piss in a bucket. I nearly convinced myself to get a bucket for old time's sake. But that's a normal part of life. Vomiting all over you is not a normal part of life. If you're vomiting all over someone, you're ill. If you're pissing all over someone, you're not ill. Well, you may well be ill in some way, but you're not ill in terms of some illness that's causing you to go around pissing on everyone. That's the difference. I think that I've pinpointed the difference there. If you find yourself going around vomiting on everyone, then you're probably ill. If you find yourself going around pissing on everyone, there's no equivalent of a stomach bug that would cause you to do that. There's no pissing disease. Even if there is something that makes you piss all day, it doesn't make you piss on people. That's not how pissing works. Pissing comes from below the waist, so unless the people around you are very small, that's not going to work. It's conceivable that you could have an illness that causes out of control vomiting where you vomit over people in your vicinity. If you have out of control pissing, it's not going to cause you to piss on people. It's just going to cause you to piss forth into wherever you piss. It's a matter of height. It's a matter of height. That's what it is. So there we go now. I hope that brings clarity.
Into your head. Into your head. Into your head. Into your head. Into your head.
We've a lot to get on with today. Items that need to be attended to. Issues that need to be addressed. Topics. Oh, topics. We've got lots and lots of topics. We're positively booming to the seams with topics. We've got topics coming out of this hand. And now I know what you're thinking there. He did a trouser thing last time. He says, I've got topics coming out of this trouser. And then he did about 55 minutes on how he only needs one trouser and not a pair of them to start a show as a topic primer. And he started moaning because there was another pant needlessly attached to that pant. He's probably going to do it the same way as hand now. Well, no, I'm not. I'm not going to bemoan the fact that my hand is attached to me. No, it's absolutely fine. It's attached to my other hand via a natural version of what we used to do. What we used to do when you were children. You were sent off to school in the winter with a pair of gloves, a piece of string attached to one glove that would go up the sleeve and then across the back of your coat and then down the other sleeve and attached to the other glove. And the idea was that if you're going to lose one of your gloves, you might as well lose both of them. There's no point somebody finding one of your gloves. The thing with a hand, you have a natural version of that because it's connected to the vascular plumbing system in your body. Your hand is connected in through that. If I were to lose one hand here now, the other hand wouldn't fall off with it. But my body would know about it. My body would know that there was something amiss. It would know that I've lost one of my hands. It would say, oh, the piece of string that's coming down now of this arm, it seems to be not attached to anything anymore. In fact, there's blood spouting out from it. That would be a more effective thing. If I was reinventing the glove non-losing system for today's world, instead of string, you'd have a length of fake vein. It's the type you might get from a joke shop if it existed. And you'd attach that to each glove. It would be kind of a rubber tube thing and there'd be fake blood inside it. So if you lost one of the gloves and it came off, it would start spouting blood out of just under the cuff of your sleeve where the glove has become detached. So there'd be blood spouting out of that. If you're a child in the schoolyard and blood starts spouting out of your wrist, that's how you get attention. The first thing that'll happen is someone will say, oh, there's blood coming out of his cuff. Now, hopefully, it won't alarm anybody too much. It'll just attract enough attention for a supervising teacher to come over and say, oh, your artificial blood glove vein system seems to be going off there. That means you've mislaid a glove. It's probably around here somewhere. Let's everyone help find his glove before it gets too far away. And then you find the glove. I know it sounds a bit graphic, doesn't it? But no, imagine you're in a world where they already have this and it's a normal part of the day-to-day children glove-wearing system. They have this fake blood thing. It wouldn't be so alarming then, so don't worry. You don't want to be sitting in your schoolyard in a world where these things don't exist and be the first person to see it ever happen. Don't worry about it. It'll be very effective. Very effective indeed. That's what it would be. It'll also be fun. A lot more fun than having a bit of string going up your sleeve and down the other. There's no fun in that at all. What's the fun in that? You think there's fun having string going up one thing and down the other? If you're going to do that, at least have it connected into your feet as well. If it's a cold enough day, you should be wearing gloves on your feet as well, because feet get frostbite in the cold, just as hands do. In fact, they probably get it even more in your feet than in your hands, because they're further away from your central circulation system. So you should have your gloves. I suppose socks in a way. The gloves on your feet can be called socks, I suppose, because that's usually what they are. If it was up to me, I wouldn't call them socks though. You'd have external gloves that you wear on your feet that aren't your normal socks, because you wouldn't wear them indoors. They'd be too hot. If you're wearing the same socks indoors that you wear outdoors, and you're wearing those outdoors as well, then you're either freezing to death when you're outdoors, because that's not enough for outdoors, it's just enough for indoors, or you're roasting to death when you're indoors, because whatever you're wearing outdoors on your feet is too much. Have socks and then have external glove things, foot gloves. Do that. Do that. That makes a lot more sense. And the same with your hands. Your hands have gloves when you're outside. When you're at home, you don't usually have anything on your hands. But if it's particularly cold, cost of central heating is going through the roof. You should have some sort of sock equivalent for your hands indoors. If you're being optimistic and hoping the inflationary rise in heating bills won't go on for too long, maybe you're happy to make do with just using gloves. Or maybe a spare pair of socks on your hands at home. I don't know. What are people doing about their hands at home when they're trying to cut on heating? I don't know. I'm always hot. I'm always overheating, so I don't know how it works. Once upon a time, there was a dog. A dog. A dog. A dog. Basically a dog. And this dog, let me tell you about this dog now. But just give me, I throw a minute to recover. I'm coming down with something. I can't even go once upon a time there was a dog now. Something I've done successfully many times over the past year. I can't do that without my throat falling apart. So I'm definitely coming down with something. Anyway, this dog was walking around minding his own business, wondering why he was being referred to as a dog. And why the fella kept having to take a sip of beverage every time he referred to him as a dog. And then the dog thought, wait a minute, I'm sure I have a name. Do I have a name? I'm sure I have a name. I've heard people referring to me by name. They call me by name every day, all the time. So why is this fella just saying dog? I know that's a name, but it's an overall name of a species. It's not very helpful. They say dog. He could be talking about anybody from my species. He could be talking about one of millions and millions of dogs. And it's not like humans. There's different varieties of dogs as well. We come in all shapes and sizes. I know humans come in different shapes and sizes as well, and races. But there's a lot more varieties of dog than there are of people. You can have tiny little dogs that look about the size of a cat that people put in their back pocket. And then you have these giant things that look like they'll eat your head off. They'll eat your head off if you're not careful. Those dogs who look like they could eat your head off, they could eat your head off. And then there's kind of in-between dogs. And then there's me. I'm not saying I'm an in-between dog. I'm not going to say what I am or what I'm not. Because for one thing, I'm not the narrator. Why should I have to narrate and describe myself? No, just because some fella says once upon a time there was a dog. That doesn't mean I owe anything to the situation. I'm not the narrator. He's the narrator. I'm just the person he's narrating. If he wants to describe me and assign an identity to me other than dog, that's his business. But it's not my job. It is not. I'm just a... That's like, if you're going around filming, you're a news reporter and you go around filming shots of people walking up and down Grafton Street, the main shopping thoroughfare in the city centre, because you're doing something about the economy. You don't expect them all to look at the camera and say, oh, hello, I'm just walking down the street here. I'm not actually shopping. I'm on my way up to St. Stephen's Green and I'm going to take a shortcut across there to Leeson Street and then go down there a bit because that's where you get the bus to Wicklow. And then you point the camera at someone else and they say, oh, I am shopping. I'm doing it online. I'm going to go into McDonald's there and finish this purchase online on my phone after I get my food. No, you take some shots of them and then you go back to your studio later and you do a voiceover. Probably don't even mention the people in the film. You just show us just to have something on the screen. You show these people walking up and down the main shopping thoroughfare in the middle of Dublin, and then you put a voiceover of you saying, today the National Economic Research Council has put out a report saying that GDP is up by 5%. Apparently it's my job to explain it to you, and I will explain it to you. I will, in a moment, not during this report. After this report, there'll be an extra bit where I'm showing standing in the studio, and the newsreader will start asking me questions then, and that'll be my cue to look smart. I'll say, oh yes, that was my report, and yes, you're welcome. As the newsreader will say, thank you, however your name is. Tell me, what can you tell us about the thing that was in that report? And I'll say, well, surprisingly, I can tell you more than was in the report because I intentionally left it incomplete because I knew you were going to interview me about it in the studio afterwards, and I didn't want to look like I was just repeating myself. I suppose that's probably why you brought me in. He listened to the report and he thought, oh, that's incomplete. I'll have to get him in now live and have him fill in the blanks because else people are just going to be pissed off. They'll say, oh, that's just a picture of some people walking down the street. I bet you they're not even shopping. They're not even shopping. Probably going for a bus, or one of them's going into the McDonald's there. Maybe they're doing some online shopping, but that doesn't count. If someone's doing online shopping during the lunch break in the McDonald's in town, you can't show them walking to the McDonald's and say, oh no, they're walking up and down the main shopping thoroughfare. They're shopping. No, that's ridiculous. Or is it though? Because it's just a bit of library footage. Relax. It's just to put over an economic report, try to make it vaguely interesting, or at least to have something on the television. I suppose they could put up charts and things. Well, they do. They don't want the whole thing to be charts though, like a fucking presentation. People have been at work all day. They're seeing enough presentations and charts. They don't want to see a whole half-hour news that's all presentations and charts. They want to see themselves walking up and down Grafton Street and then intersperse that with some charts and some interesting words. And then when it all gets a bit much, switch to the newsreader in the studio and have them ask the last few questions to squeeze the last few bits of information out of the report. That's how you do news. Maybe you do it differently in other countries, I don't know. That's your business. You go do your news your way and we'll do it our way, and let's not interfere. In fact, let's stop interfering, because every news report in Ireland now has one of you far writers commenting on it, telling us stuff. Mind your own business. It's none of your business. Stop poking your nose into our news. None of your business. It's really not. None of your business. Anyway, the dog was saying, oh yes, I could be a big dog or a little dog, or any one of a million other brands of dog. There's loads of dog brands. There's Alsatians, there's Golden Retrievers, there's Cocker Spaniels, there's little yappy things, there's big shouty things, there's dogs that go around going, oh, 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 but they're just a bit thick. And then there's dogs who go around going, oh, 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 and they eat you. And then there's dogs who just go around the schoolyard eating discarded sandwiches at the end of the lunch break. And you think, what in the name of Christ? Who eats that? That's disgusting. Who eats that? There's a cat looking disgusted. What in the name of Christ is that thing eating? A discarded sandwich that some child left on the ground. It's glued to the ground. Well, the dog just comes in and goes, oh, I'm going to eat that. Oh, wait a minute. Am I thinking of birds? Because I'm thinking of in the schoolyard. I remember you'd go back in the classroom after lunch break and then you'd see out the window. It'd be birds gathering and they'd come round and get the remains of the discarded sandwiches. There'd be dogs as well, but they didn't wait until we went back in. They hung around with the kids if they were allowed to. And then sometimes the children would play British Bulldog. And that got a bit weird. Usually what happened was it got banned after a couple of days. The teachers would cop onto it and say, "Oh, British Bulldog, that's a dangerous game, that's bad." And they'd make an announcement to say, British Bulldog played in this school under any circumstances, in any way, shape or form, it's dangerous and it's banned. I never figured out what British Bulldog was. I wasn't one of the cool kids. The only way to find out what British Bulldog was is to be right there at the beginning of the British Bulldog outburst, which only lasts a day or two. So you have to be there right at the beginning, and either you're the kid who knows about it and tells everyone how to play it, or else you're right in there at the beginning before it's even broached publicly to the other children. You have to be there with the cool kids. They're going, "Oh, I think I'm going to suggest that we start a game of British Bulldog." If you're lucky, if you're right in there, you'll hear them saying that, and then you can ask them, you can say, "Oh, remind me, I know how it works, but explain to me how it works just as a reminder before we go and explain it to the other kids." And then they'll say, "Oh, well, it's a bulldog thing. Basically, what you do is everyone gets a gun." I think this might be why it's being banned all the time in schools, but everyone gets a gun and then they get a sledgehammer. There's no dogs involved, but basically you don't have a dog, so you have to substitute for the dog by being violent in the way that a dog might be. And then there's some running around involved as well, presumably. I think that's why fools teachers for a day or two. They say, "Oh, they've got some new thing where they're running around." They're probably just playing rounders or chasing or something. But no, it turns out it's British Bulldog. Still no idea what it is. None the wiser 40 years later. I'm sure it's fantastic though. I'm sure it's fantastic. I'm sure it's like the WWF of the child world, except with dogs, and it's named after something in England for some reason. Or do we have British Bulldogs here? I don't know. Probably called something else. If someone heard their child going, "Oh, we've got a British Bulldog at home," you go, "No, that's well, maybe you wouldn't. I don't know." So are we done with that? I think we're done with that. I see we've got going now. If I finally got going, that's a relief. I really thought I wasn't going to get going today, but I'm going to get going. It's great. Let's keep the momentum going. This podcast involves an energy drink commitment early on in the day, and you commit to that and you plan your day around the fact that you fill yourself up with taurine and caffeine. You can't just go, "Oh, no, not going to do a podcast today. I'll just sit here having the jitters for the rest of the day." No, not that you have the jitters. I'm a responsible consumer of energy drinks. I control myself. I don't overdo it. But no, it is a commitment. What's that saying? They go, "If you're not going to shit, get off the pot." Well, that's not an option here. I've already had 3 cans of energy drink. In the early days of this podcast, you used to be able to get a huge grey bottle containing a litre of generic energy drink. There's a big grey thing, and they would call it something like Dart or Dirt or some other thing. It looked like something you'd find in a Terminator movie. If Arnold Schwarzenegger's character broke into a futuristic factory and chased around a robot for a while, and who's your man who's the cop, and turns out he's a baddie Terminator and he melts and things, and they all go on fire and you see their Terminator skeletons running around and there's a big bust up in some industrial complex. Like that. That's where I'd expect to see an energy drink like that. One of those grey bottles, although I'm not entirely sure now why I'd expect that. Maybe it's because it just looks industrial. Don't have those bottles anymore. You have to get these little cans. You say, "Oh, look, there's a little can of energy drink, a thimble of energy drink. I'll pour that down me, and then I'll go nuts and have a second one. And then maybe I'll start a third one, or I'll pour it into an egg cup because I don't want to go too mad. I don't want to be too full of energy. No, Christ, no, God forbid." So you do that. And then, of course, you have 3 cans. And now the new regime here now, if you drink things out of cans, find someone who knows how to drive and have them bring you to this fucking supermarket that you don't go to normally and shove them into a machine like some sort of thing for chopping up wood. That's like on that Fargo the movie. On Fargo the movie, your man out of Reservoir Dogs who's in that, and he's chopping up some fella by putting parts of him into a wood chipper or something, grinding him up. And that's what the machine is outside Lidl for getting your deposit back. Then you go and buy all your stuff, and then you go up and queue somewhere, and then that machine comes on and it says, till number 2 is now closing. Please go to till number 4. So I go, which fucking one is till number 4? I can't see the numbers. I suppose I could just assume that it's the 4th one from that wall. So I go for the 4th one from that wall, and you see someone there, and you say, oh no, we're closing. And I go, oh, very sorry, wouldn't want to keep you here doing the same task for more than 3 minutes. No. They're sending you over to do something on the bakery, is that it? They probably are. They have a bakery now in Lidl. Basically a series of trolleys and shelves. And every now and then someone gets taken off the tills for a few minutes, and they go over and they push some trolleys into a cooker, or they push some cookers into a trolley, or they take out some bits of bread and put them out on a shelf somewhere. And then people go, oh, look, they've got a bakery here now. We've got fresh baked something. Let's get some fresh baked something. It more than makes up for the hell of walking around with a basket. I don't know what I'm complaining about, to be honest. It's a perfectly adequate supermarket. There's nothing wrong with it at all. I just miss the days when you go into a supermarket and they'll say, hello, here's a supermarket. You're a human being. Here's a trolley. There's a little seat on the trolley. I remember you go into a supermarket and the first thing that happened was you get a big trolley. You put a deposit in it, and then you get to sit on a little plastic seat that's on the front of the trolley, and you just dangle your legs into the trolley. And that was great. You didn't have to do anything. You just got pushed around. It was fantastic. I used to love supermarkets in that era. But then along came Lidl and Aldi, and they said, no, back to basics now. We're going to... Your supermarket is a box. And they do have trolleys, to be fair. In fact, for a long time, they had nothing but trolleys. Our local Lidl didn't have baskets for many years. Then they begrudgingly brought in baskets. They said, oh, fine. You want to buy less than 54 items? Here's a fucking basket for you. Here's a fucking basket for you. Put your stuff in it. The basket has wheels, though, because I don't know. I suppose that's good. I don't know why I'm being so negative about it. It's perfectly fine. A basket with wheels is a far superior experience to a basket that you have to carry around. It is. You usually fit a lot more in it as well. So what the problem is, I don't know. I just miss the old supermarkets. You could sit on a little seat and get pushed around. And then at the end of the experience, after everything was bagged up, you got to play in a little electric car thing in the lobby. You'd put 10 pence into a slot and it would go back and forwards and back and forwards and back and forwards. And you could imagine that you were a motorist, which I've never been because I'm vision impaired. They don't let me drive because I might kill you all. So I got to enjoy this little play car in the lobby. You'd sit there. Maybe you'd be in a little van with postman Pat sitting beside you. And you get to go forward and back and forward and back and forward and back and forward and back. It was absolutely fantastic.
Into your head.
It's the second day in a row that I've been trying to make this episode. I think it's going a bit better today. I haven't coughed my lungs up yet. Been in here 7 minutes and 26.9 seconds, and I still haven't coughed my lungs up yet. That's good, because I haven't bought a beverage in here. If I do start to cough my lungs up, I will have to go and retrieve a beverage from elsewhere, and that'll cause problems again. Let's just battle through with this. Everybody just put your heads down and battle through, and we'll get this fucking thing done. And we can all get on with our day. I wonder, will I risk blowing on the harmonica? Oh, now that's interesting. I have an L bend from under a sink that I keep here. I've just realised now. If I put this L bend pipe connector thing in front of the harmonica, maybe that'll do something with the sound. That's it with the pipe facing down. Let me try it with it facing up now. No, I don't notice any difference. I don't have a musical ear, of course, but I don't notice any difference with that. And if I don't notice any difference in that, then I'm not going to be able to convey the difference to you. Even in the editing process, if I try and turn it up to stress the evidence, that's not going to work. That's not going to work at all. Oh, this vacuum cleaner attachment. Yes, I almost said Hoover. That's what we do in my country. We say Hoover. It's not because we're trying to advertise a particular brand. That's just what I was raised calling it. We called it a Hoover. A vacuum cleaner is what you call it. If you're a scientist in some lab somewhere, you say, hand me that vacuum cleaner, please. And you'll say, when you say hand it to you, how do I do that? Because a vacuum cleaner is very hard to hand to someone. You have this big contraption. Even if you have it properly arranged, you have the nozzle and the long straight bit hooked into a thing at the bottom so it's sort of sticking out. And then you have a handle there. How do you hand that to someone? Even if you have it properly set up and everything, the wire is all coiled up. You have the straight nozzle and the attachment thing hanging off one side. How do you hand that to someone in a dignified manner in a laboratory, which presumably is a workplace, and presumably you're the assistant there, possibly an unpaid intern, and you're trying to make a good impression, and he goes, hand me a vacuum cleaner. And then you try and hand it to him. So you pick it up by the hand carrying thing. Presumably at the top of the main part of the vacuum cleaner thing, there's a handle, and that's designed to pick up the whole thing. So you pick that up and you hand it to them. Are you supposed to let go of the handle and let them take over the handle with their hands there? And you try to avoid touching hands because that's a bit weird. Or do you go, oh, I'll let go of I'll try to be helpful. I'll hold it by the base in two hands and I'll hand it to them so that the handle is free for them to grab. And then they can take it like that. But then you still have the whole detachment thing. What I have here is the vacuum cleaner equivalent of the sawn-off microphone stand that Freddie Mercury used to use. Now, he didn't have this wide attachment. What this has is the wide attachment thing that you use for your main hoovering attachment thing. What most people would use when they start vacuuming with this. And that's just as well because I can't seem to remove it. So there's nothing else you could attach even if I wanted to because I can't seem to remove this. It's attached to a sawn-off thing. I'm realising now this is from an old vacuum cleaner and we thought, oh, we have a new one now. Let's keep this bit of the old one as a spare part. Fucking ridiculous. No, I don't think it's even suited to the ones we have. We have the new type now that has the smiley face on it and it has a cutesy name. I don't think this is from one of those. I think this is from an old cleaner of the type that my mother used to buy. And when I say the type that my mother used to buy, I mean the type that she bought in 1964 and managed to make last for even longer than my father's lawnmower. That's what I mean. Anyway, no, that's not going to fit anyone. So we put that down there now before I injure myself. Oh, don't worry. You may have heard a bang as I dropped that on the floor. I was trying to drop it on the mattress there, but I must have missed and it landed on the floor. But it's okay. Nobody died. Well, my mother died last year, and that was her vacuum cleaner, now that I think about it. Are you going into your head? Two cats walk into a bar. One of the cats goes straight up to the bar counter and says, hello, can I have a pint of your finest Guinness, please? The man behind the bar says, well, first things first, what caused that belch? Is that belch from have you been drinking somewhere else first? And the cat says, no, you fucking idiot, that was the narrator. Narrator was belching. Don't really know why, because he hasn't even got a beverage at the moment. He's got nothing to belch. He's had a coughing fit and he's still not bothered to go out and get himself a beverage. He's just going to muddle through and get a few more segments done and then get the fuck out of here. So if you don't mind me saying so, I think that's a bit reckless. A bit reckless. I didn't say recluse, I said reckless. Did you think I said recluse? You probably did, because that's the word you're listing out for. You're thinking, oh, was he calling someone a recluse? You know what people are like. They hear what they want to hear. They hear me calling him reckless and our man there hears recluse. Because you're thinking, oh, I would love to hear a story about someone who's a recluse. Because I'm working in a bar all day. I hear stories about all these outgoing people. That's like a busman's holiday to me. I want to hear the opposite. I want to hear stories about recluses who don't go to bars at all, shut-ins, people who sit at home all day doing podcasts or whatever people do at home. What do people do at home all day? People who are at home all day? I don't know. There's a question for you. I'm at home all day today. At the moment I'm doing this. Well, it's not taking all day, but it's not. Fucking well, better not anyway, because I'm deteriorating every minute. I'm deteriorating minute by minute. I can feel my guts getting ready to crawl up out of my chest and out through my mouth and out onto the table here and onto the... Oh, there's a cat. There's not supposed to be a cat in here. You're not supposed to be in here. You're supposed to notify me before I close the door that you want to be left out. So where were we? We weren't really anywhere, were we? Was I saying something about the barman saying me having a cough or something? No idea. Completely gone. Completely gone. I'm probably going to be dead by the end of this day from this cough I'm starting to get. Not to worry. Not to worry. At least we'll get this done and dusted. Now, I know what you're thinking there. You're thinking, surely a sock on a hand would be more comfortable if it was a finger sock than a sock that covers the whole hand. Unless those socks that women wear sometimes that have a separate section for each toe. So they basically have toes, except they're not real toes. They're toe cavities to put your toe into. With such confidence in the manufacturing process, your confidence you're going to put on these toed socks and each of them will magically exactly fit each of your toes. You've had your toes properly professionally measured by one of those people in the shoe shops, not realising that the shoe shop isn't where you buy socks. The shoe shop is where you buy shoes, and they may well have someone who's very good at professionally measuring your feet. But that doesn't mean they're going to have something to put on your feet that matches them properly. You get your feet measured by a feet measuring person. They'll say, oh, I have your measure now. I have your exact measure. I have it written here. They don't tell you, of course. They just go and find a sock for you. They'll say, oh, I found a sock in your size. Try this on now. This is a left one. They do this trick as well at the opticians. They'll say, oh, I've done your eye test now. Let's go and find you some glasses frames. You pick out the frames now and we'll send them off and get the lenses put in them. But they don't give you the prescription. They say, no, if we give him the prescription, he'll go somewhere else. He'll tell someone else what he needs and they'll give it to him. They can't have that. Of course, they're quite happy to give you your prescription if you just ask them for it. I suppose that's reasonable. We're not in this day and age. This is the age where people do everything over Twitter. Young people don't take phone calls anymore because we're terrified of interactions via telephone or voice or in person. So if we have to go and ask them for our prescription, we're not going to do that. We're going to try and figure it out. We'll figure it out from the receipt, or we'll buy some device on Amazon, the same one that they have in some of those shops, because they don't like ringing other shops either to find your prescription. If they don't know your prescription because you got your test done somewhere else, they take your old glasses and they put them under a measuring machine. And the measuring machine says, oh, this looks like a size 8. Give them a size 8 on the left and a size 9 on the right. And they do the same in shoe shops with these socks. Now, just to be clear, I'm quite sure that the people who work in these shoe shops are very good at measuring your feet. They measure your feet very well. They can tell you exactly what size your feet are and what size each of your toes are and how far up from the ground they are. They never measure your legs. That's the thing. They never measure your legs, and that should be part of it. I know the shoes don't go onto your legs, but your legs are part of what is operating your feet. Your legs are pulling your feet up and down, up and down, up and down all day. And how long and effective your legs are has a bearing on how far your feet get worn down as you walk around all day. You might have legs that are like tree trunks and they go up for miles and miles and miles. And like any big tree trunk, it has layers and layers and layers. It adds an extra layer of skin to it every year. And that's going to have a bearing on how much wear and tear there is on your feet or on whatever's on your feet. Your shoes. Now, hopefully that wear and tear will go through onto the soles of your shoes and not directly onto your feet. You want to bypass your feet. You want all that wear and damage to bypass your feet. You want your feet protected. It's a bit like when you get hit by lightning. You don't want your feet to absorb the lightning. You want your shoes to absorb the lightning or redirect it into the ground or wherever it happens. Same if you touch an electric capacitor, a high voltage electricity lines where they send the long distance electricity along these wires. If you touch one of them, you don't want the electricity to reside inside your feet or your hand or wherever you're touching it with. You want it to be conducted out through your shoes. And the problem is nowadays people go, oh, I don't want, my shoes are very expensive. I don't want them to be damaged by that electricity. So I want them to be non-absorbing of that electricity. I want the electricity to just fly out. I don't know where I want it to go, but I certainly don't want it to damage my shoes. If I damage my shoes, then I may as well not have feet at all, because I'm not going to have shoes. There's no point in having feet. What good is a foot if you don't have a shoe on it? It's a bit like that thing on Pink Floyd's The Wall. There's a teacher going, oh, you can't have any pudding if you don't have any of your meat. How can you have any pudding if you don't have your meat? Well, the people nowadays, they feel the same way about shoes. They say, I have a €180 Kanye West designer shoe on one leg, and I have a €190 Kanye West designer shoe on my right leg, and the feet that are inside it are a secondary thing. They're not even visible. I don't even see my feet. No, the shoes are more important. That's what they say. And if you're going to put electricity into my shoes, I don't know. Does rubber help? Maybe it does. Does rubber conduct electricity? And if so, is that a good thing or a bad thing? Do you want it to conduct electricity? Maybe you do. Maybe you want to divert it into the ground. Maybe you just want to not attract electricity at all. That would be even better. I don't know. I never really learned about any of this stuff. We weren't taught electricity in schools. It was home economics was considered to be for girls, and I went to a boys' school. We didn't do home economics, so there was nothing about electricity or shoes or any of that. Anyway, the shoe person says, oh, okay, I've measured your shoes. Now you say you want gloves for your feet. Now I've measured each of your toes individually, and I recommend getting individual socks for each of your toes. And then for your foot itself, if you get toeless gloves or toeless socks for your feet, I suppose we could manufacture something that's all in one for that, and that would be called a sock. It wouldn't be very good. I suppose I could just get a normal sock and then kind of pin it. Like when you're getting fitted for a suit, they put a suit on you, but then they get out pins and things and you start pinning it. I presume to do anyway. I've never been to a tailor more than once or twice, and that was a rental. They start pinning needles into you and saying, oh, this needs to be taken up a bit at the hem, and this needs to be pushed in a bit there between your butt cheeks, and this needs to be pulled up a bit here so we can't see what's behind it, and this needs to be pinned down there, and this needs to be the crease, and then we fold this bit up. So they put a load of pins in it, the tailor does, to mark it off for themselves, so when they go back home with their sewing kit, they say, oh, look, I don't have this fellow with me to try this on him, but I do have the pins there. I've made my mark. It's a bit like if you're doing a painting of the Mona Lisa, and you can't have her just sitting there for days, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. No, you get her to sit there for a while and then you draw a sketch. And that's the equivalent of what the tailor is doing when he puts the pins in the trousers. He's marking off what he has to do, all the sewing he has to do. And you're marking off on the Mona Lisa, oh, her mouth's going to come up to here, and there's going to be a wrinkle up here, and there's going to be a fucking weird grin down here. And now I know she's not doing that. I'll make that up myself. That'll be fictional. And then there'll be some hair up there, and her right arm will be over there, and her left arm will be over there on the opposite side. She'll be wearing some clothes, and then there'll be, probably a background behind her. I can paint the background later, because the background will be still there when she leaves, so we don't have to worry about that. I just have to make sure when I paint the background that I leave a body-shaped hole in the background for where I'm going to put her. Or maybe I can just paint the whole thing and let it dry and then paint her over the background. I suppose that could work as well. Trial and error. Nobody's done a Mona Lisa before, and it's trial and error. And then you paint that woman, you put the mean face on her so she looks like a psychopath. No wonder nobody liked you. Leonardo da Van Gogh, whoever it was. Who painted that? Who painted that piece of shit? That's what I want to know. The first computer I ever had came with some free CD-ROMs. One of them was a CD-ROM of some gallery in France. I'm pretty sure it had the Mona Lisa and some other things on it. It was all in French. The paintings weren't in French, but the stuff around them, the material surrounding them, the writing and everything was in French. Oh wait, maybe it wasn't. I didn't really look at it that closely, to be honest. There was also an encyclopedia. Now that was, you young people probably don't remember, but in the old days, computers didn't used to be connected to each other. You used to be able to get a computer and it wouldn't be connected to anyone else. You'd just be connected to your electricity supply. And you get an encyclopedia on the CD. And then there was the Microsoft Encarta Encyclopedia, so you'd load that up. All of human knowledge compressed onto one thing. You couldn't edit it. That wasn't a thing in those days. You couldn't edit the encyclopedia. But you were confident that the people who wrote it had waited until they were finished editing before they put it out. They weren't going, oh, this is the draft version, it needs editing. They used to wait until encyclopedias were finished being written and then they'd put them out. They put a disclaimer saying, everything hasn't happened yet. History is still running its course, so there's stuff that's going to happen in the future that may have happened already before you even get this disc home and put it in your computer. And that's not going to be on this, but that's fine. And we used to be fine with that. Before the MTV generation came along and decided we have to have everything tomorrow. I remember the original MTV. The original MTV, you tune in and there would be a fella with hair. And he'd say, hello, you're watching the MTV. It's the music television. The music television. Here's a cartoon about the letter M. And that cartoon about the letter M, it would run for about 10 seconds. And then they'd say, hello, here's some music. And then the fella would come on. He'd go, video killed the radio star. Video killed the radio star. In my mind and in my car. That was the first song ever played on music television. And the fella who made it, I read his book recently. He has a real name. Buggles isn't his real name in his proper job, his proper day job, which involves being a respected music producer. Oh, I forget his name, but he's very well known and well respected. The fella who did the Bubbles. He's a music producer. He produces music, not just his own. In fact, he doesn't usually produce his own. He's too fancy now to make his own music. He produces other people's music. They can say, oh, I have some music. I want it produced. It's supposedly my music because I've supposedly written that I made it and I'm ready to put it on a record, but I want you to produce it. That's like paying someone else to have your children for you. What in the name of Christ? I suppose there's nothing wrong with that. You don't say, I produced this music. Or maybe you do. I suppose that's perfectly reasonable now that I think about it. What do you people do? You people in the modern era who have your online editable encyclopedias. If you find something that you don't like, it needs editing and isn't complete in the encyclopedia, do you look it up in another encyclopedia and copy it over? Because that's plagiarism. If that's what you're doing, you're not adding anything to the world. For Christ's sake, if it's not in that encyclopedia, there might be a reason for that. In fact, if there's something that's in that encyclopedia that's not in another one, there might be a reason for that as well. Has that ever occurred to you? No. Or you're quite happy to go along, just edit stuff. Every time you edit something on that thing, there's 10,000 people on a discussion page behind that main article, and they're talking about you behind your back for about a week. You probably don't even realise that. You've so little self-awareness. Every time you edit a semicolon on Wikipedia, there's 100 people. Half of them are official editors, and they're having these discussions. There's a discussion page behind each article on Wikipedia, and they're all talking about you. They're saying, what's this fucker doing now? He's come along, he's changed that apostrophe into a semicolon, and he hasn't written anything to explain himself, so it's incomplete. So we all have to debate it now. We have to have a big back and forth. We say, oh, what are his qualifications for one thing? Well, it doesn't say because he's not even logged in. So take a few points off him for that. He's less trustworthy because we don't know who he is. You're doing yourself down there because you could be somebody very trustworthy, but they don't know because you haven't said. They just have to assume that you're a nobody. So then they have a big long discussion. They'll say, oh, well, he replaced the semicolon with a colon. Maybe he's trying to be funny, is he? He says that fella deserves a full colon, some sort of reference to veganism or something, is it? I don't know. You have to second guess you. Then they try and look up any other edits you've made. Maybe they find you've edited the entry for anti-disestablishmentarianism. Oh, you've corrected the spelling. Not of anti-disestablishmentarianism. You haven't corrected the spelling of that. That's still wrong. You don't have the confidence to do that. And it takes quite a lot of confidence to go into a Wikipedia article and correct the spelling of the title of the entry. It does. But you probably haven't done that. Well, that's what happens with that anyway. This is the end of the program. Goodbye.